Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Good Sports, the Next Generation, the Championship Show Edition. Hang on to your seats, it's going to be a good one. Of course, my name is Dan Craven. I'm joined with Duane Kohler, as always.
Dan.
Good to see you, Duane.
Good to be seen.
Dominic.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, Dan.
Good stuff.
Duane.
Dom.
Yeah.
Duane. Captain. Now we got that figured out. Josh Fetch couldn't be with us tonight. He's on special location. We won't tell you where that is. That's what makes it special. Tonight, our show is being filmed at the home of cable TV. We're right here at Armstrong Studio, which is a great place to be. This is, I think, of all the years that we've done the Good Sports Show, I think this might be the first time we've actually had one here.
I see EXP over your shoulder.
EXP?
There, yeah. Ask about upgrading to EXP today.
Well, you know,
That's product placement, right?
EXP? No, I think that's when you can tell something's going to happen in the future.
Product placement is, okay. I gotcha.
Anyways, tonight's our championship edition, and of course we got Duane Kohler along because we got some other outdoor stuff that we need to talk about. A big trend happening in Crawford County and maybe even across the whole Commonwealth that Duane has done a lot of research on and is going to help us with later. And I'm not going to tell you what it is, so you stay with us. But first and foremost, I think we need to talk about those Pittsburgh Penguins. And as you can see by the hat on my head, I'm a big supporter. And I think the fact that they won the Stanley Cup the way they did was really good for not only hockey, because of the way they did it. I mean, they were like almost not even making the playoffs in December. And then
they were on life support for a bit.
They were. And I got to tell you, and I want to get everybody's opinion here, but I was one of the first ones, when they made that get rid of the Cheryl Blyzma thing, I was one of the first ones to say, okay, maybe the Blyzma thing, maybe he's not getting along with the players, but the Cheryl GM thing I was a little questioning, and when they brought Rutherford in, I didn't think that, that was such a good move, but, as it turned out, they not only won the Stanley Cup with some moves that he made, but he ended up winning the GM of the Year award in the NHL, which is a pretty impressive, I would think, award. But Duane, let's start with you. What was your?
I thought Bowsman was a pretty good coach, and I kind of liked some of the way they were going. I saw maybe a couple player things they had done back at that point. But the switch to the other coach in between Bosma and the current one,
right,
that they went downhill in a hurry with that one.
Johnson,
in my opinion. But the new system seems to work, and it looks like something that can be worked for a long time. In the finals, it looked like the other guys couldn't get any offense going at all,
right,
and the Penguins. I was a little bit concerned about their goalkeeper, but their offense was putting pressure on the whole time. Their defense was solid. And the goalkeeper didn't have to work that hard because the defense was keeping things
right
away from him for the most part.
Right.
So rookie goalkeeper gets in there, and didn't he tie the most wins by a rookie in the playoffs ever or something like that?
Yeah, he had ended up. He had some distinct award. I can't remember what he was up there with. I can't think of his name. He played for Colorado and
Patrick
Montreal.
Roy.
Oh, yeah, Patrick Roy. So I think he stepped in well, and you make some good points. I think the system that was employed by Sullivan, when didn't give those guys a chance to breathe, and that game played at a high pace, and it's a razor edge, opportunity. But if you look at that elimination game, San Jose on their home ice, they only had one shot on goal, and the only time they got the second shot on goal was when they pulled the goalie and they had an extra attacker. So 2 shots in the third period at home in an elimination game. I don't know. You can't say that I don't think it's fair to say their offense went anemic. I think it's fair to say that the Penguins just had them figured out.
Yeah,
and then shut them down. Don, what's your update?
Well, I think that it goes to a little bit about what you said. Mike Sullivan was able to sell them on the idea. I don't have hard numbers in front of me, but if you look at the Penguins' blocked shots versus the number of blocked shots for the San Jose players, and that is nothing more than an outward projection of determination to lay down in front of an 80 mile an hour piece of frozen vulcanized rubber,
right,
to block it. So I think that, coupled with the speed that Rutherford was able to add, the game at its simplest, and you can speak to this, Dan, is a possession game and a race to the puck. If you can be there first and then possess it, the other team can't score if they don't have the puck. And it goes to what you were saying about 2 shots on goal. So I think you combine their ability and willingness to block shots, making things much easier for Matt Murray. Not to say that Matt Murray isn't an outstanding keeper, But again, to your point as well, the razor-thin margin, there were a number of posts that San Jose hit. In fact, was it San Jose that had a double post? Hit one post, went across the goal line, hit the other post, and ricocheted out. You know, pucks like that bounce in, and you're talking about a much different series. But it was that willingness and ability to lay down in front of the shot to kind of let Murray, get comfortable.
Right.
Sometimes they say you want a goaltender to face, 30 shots so he's active. But I think you want to pick and choose those spots. You don't want him trying to stop everything that comes his way. So you block some of those shots, you let him get comfortable, you let him get into a rhythm, and their speed was just outstanding. I think that the Trevor Daley, Hagelin, those guys, you get them in and you get them, and again, to what Duane was saying, buying into Sullivan's system, and they skate hard. I don't know, I was very fortunate I was able to watch some of the CBC broadcasts, and Phil Kessel had taken a lot of abuse in Toronto because a lot of people felt when he was in Toronto he was going to bring Toronto back a championship, since this is the championship edition, and he didn't. And there was some criticism of his conditioning, his commitment. The CBC would show Kessel sitting on the bench huffing and puffing after a shift. And, he's not exactly what you would see featured in an ESPN The Body issue. He's got more of a, night league player physique than he does. And that's not to be critical of him. He just doesn't look svelte like a Sidney Crosby or an Evgeny or a Chris Letang, for goodness sakes.
Right.
So they were able to get a player like Kessel, who's got fantastic hands, but to go all in is a testament to Sullivan and whatever that switch is, whether that's real or perceived on the players, because I think there can be a case.
When they announced the MVP at the end, I was expecting it to be Kessel. I really was, and I was surprised.
I think he deserved it.
I was surprised, and my wife's like, well, what happened to Crosby? Well, he disappeared in the finals. I said, they put their best guy on him. He was just blanketing him the whole time, and he still contributed. He got his assists and all that kind of stuff. But
right.
I thought Kessel was going to get that.
Well,
and someone can Google this if they want, but that has to be one of the rare occasions where the MVP trophy went to a guy who did not score a goal in the finals.
Well, if you look at and you listen to Mike Sullivan, is that Crosby put up numbers that were really spectacular that aren't on the score sheet.
Oh no, I agree.
Well, you agree because you're a sports person,
right?
And to those people that don't, he's winning 75% of his face-offs. He designs the play that Connor Sherry scores on.
Exactly.
He's blocking shots. He's playing both ends of the ice. And at Duane's point, he's getting smothered by their number one.
They put their best defender on him, just like a blanket. I mean, he's just hanging on him.
So he's doing things that you aren't going to read in the newspaper that makes teams win. And so I honestly said, if I was going to vote, I probably would have voted the way you were thinking. I would have voted to Phil Kessel.
Right.
But I obviously didn't get a vote. But
you didn't?
No, obviously they lost my cell phone number or something because I didn't get a vote. But anyways, but Crosby did some things. Now, the ironic thing about that, and the question on the floor now next is, if you remember when the Penguins last won the Stanley Cup, they didn't do so good with Therrien, who had taken them to the finals the year before, so they got rid of him, and they brought in Blysma halfway through the season. Blysma finishes it with another team, wins the Stanley Cup, and then all of a sudden the wheels fall off again. So everybody is okay, let's love this victory, but in the back of our minds, our human minds, is the same thing going to happen to Sullivan? Comes in halfway, wins the Stanley Cup. So I guess the true test in my mind is how they react, how they respond next year, from stem to stern, from get to go. And if he gets them from camp in September back to playing in June, then I think a lot more people are going to feel confident with this guy.
I had a question mark about the goaltending. Fleury's Fleury. He's a very good goaltender, and early in his career he had some issues, and then Zatkov.
Zatkov.
And so what's the guy's Murray?
Murray.
His name?
Yeah,
he wasn't even on the roster until
Murray, yeah.
real late on,
yeah.
and then he comes out as the big star. I'm just not I'm just not sure about that part. And now I keep hearing about they're going to trade Fleury, and
Right.
So I'm a little curious about that. But if they can play defense like they played through, especially the last, I guess, 2 or 3 series, anyways, doesn't matter who's going to go. Really, not that it matters, not too many pucks even got to the goal.
No.
Go up to the goaltender.
And I know that, the NHL hands out all those awards, and there were some that I agreed with and some I didn't agree with. It was nice to see that Rutherford win the GM award, and I think somebody was telling me they hand these awards out before the playoffs because Barry Trotz, he won the coach award for Washington because they won the regular league, but it's not who you go to the prom with, it's who you come home with. It's okay to get to the prom, but who you coming home with? Right. Sullivan's coming home with Mrs. Stanley, and in my mind, I think Sullivan, rookie coach, beats, and not only and again, I thought they had the toughest road to get there. I mean, they had to beat the Rangers, and then they played Washington, then they had to play Tampa.
Right.
So I think they had the toughest road. But if the Penguins are handing out an MVP, they better give it to the video replay guy who caught that guy from Tampa being offsides. Because if they don't catch that, it's 1-0 Tampa. Then that game that we end up winning. That's that's missed.
Right. And maybe you can appreciate this, Dan, but that ended up being a very large momentum swing, and I'm glad for it. But I hate the sense of it in general.
Right.
I think that anything that, especially football, the game is already disconnected enough. And now we spend 3 minutes, 5 minutes reviewing video, going over it. Look, I understand that there are millions and billions with a B of dollars at stake on these things, and we do want to get them right. And there are occasionally egregious calls, and it happens. But I think we've even had a talk about this when players are complaining about calls being missed, and you've got players who occasionally fumble the ball, who commit errors. It's part of the game. It's ingrained in the game. It's the essence of the game. And so, yes, everybody wants to get it right, but at the same token, nothing is more disruptive to me than that interruption to try and make sure that they get it right. And then the gamesmanship that follows that, where you're not even really challenging calls that you think you can win, you're taking a chance, you've got one challenge left, it's late in the game, and it's a Hail Mary kind of situation, or we're going to challenge this just because, what the heck? We'll see if we get it right. And
that one, I'm screaming at my TV, this guy's offside, and then they score goals, figures,
Right.
I didn't watching the replay, I didn't realize how close it was. It looked way offsides when I was just watching it.
Right.
Then in the slow motion, it was closer than I thought. But.
Right.
Well, I remember one year when the Penguins lost to Philadelphia in one of the rounds that they should have won. Claude Giroux was off by 12 feet.
Right.
And and the linesman missed that, and that was a goal.
Right.
And I mean, things happen. I get it, but you were like, what?
Right.
So I was like, it was ridiculously offsides, and I guess that's why you got to play to the whistle. You little kids out there, never stop until you hear the whistle. All right.
Don Cherry teachable moment.
Don Cherry teaching moment. Yeah. Now you were talking about Fleury. There was talks about Calgary wanting Fleury's and some other trade rumors, and Malkin was talking about maybe going to Chicago, and I don't know. I mean. If you're gonna trade those guys, now's the time to do it.
Their value will never be higher.
They're never going to be higher. They just come off a Stanley Cup. Malkin was playing, his old, who knows what he was. In fact, midway through the season, if you would have taken your ticket stub to McDonald's and just simply said 71, they would have given you a turnover for free. Because it was just the nature.
They made the connection.
Yeah, I'm just really kidding. McDonald's didn't do that. I just made that up. But anyways, yeah. But the point is, if you're gonna get rid of them, now's the time.
Right.
And you got a lot of young guys coming up. Wilson, didn't play, and there were some other guys that didn't dress, and just because they're younger, and we all know about the wheel, being the wheels and all that type of stuff. So, with that said, I think. If you're going to get rid of them, now's the time to do it. Duane, what do you think?
I don't know. You got a winning team there. It looked like there's a good mix right now of experienced guys and fast young guys and guys. It worked. I wouldn't change anything, but.
Well, this is where Rutherford. These are the questions that he's got to wrestle with because you look at it, and I know we're talking about hockey, but as another example, the Phillies made a commitment with what was it, Cole Hamels, Ryan Howard, Chase Utley. That was going to be the core of a championship team, and they pretty much tied all their hopes to that, and it didn't work. And now they're struggling as a franchise, and they're really, they've got no hope. They're not going to win the World Series this year. And so, when everybody loves loyalty, I'm a huge fan of Malkin. I think that he takes a lot of extra abuse because, yes, it can be frustrating to watch that no-look pass to space that just ends up being a turnover that the defenseman takes the other way for a breakaway.
Apple or cherry, pick your pick.
Right. So
you may as well just throw an apple out there. Every time he passes, I yell, apple! Because it's too knows where it's going.
But he's also one of 5 or 10 best players on the planet in this sport. I mean, when he is on, he is. You can't knock the puck off his stick.
Get the puck away from him, right?
Right. I don't know how many times you can remember seeing him
the next Yager. He's going to be the next Yager.
Skate and skate, and they can't get it off his stick. And then obviously is the terrible no-look pass to nowhere. But figuring out that balance, when is the right time to say, okay, we have to, for the good of the franchise, we have to make a split. Because every player can't be Cal Ripken.
Right. Well,
everybody can't be Cal Ripken.
And I guess I say that because they did their run. I mean, first of all, I didn't like the no-look pass. He just seems lackadaisical for me. Even when he's on the point on the power play, he loses the puck. He doesn't hustle back. But they made that run, that long run at the end of the season when he was injured.
Right.
And the biggest question was, how are they going to figure out where to put him in when they come back? Because, you had the Kessel line or the Hagelin line with,
right.
With Bonino and Kessel. And then you've got, okay, now what are you going to do on the first line? You got Sherry, playing with Crosby, and I forget who was on his other side. But, they even put Kunitz down. Kunitz was playing third line, and then that's where Malkin ended.
Didn't even make the first game or two, did he, of the playoffs? He didn't come back until...
Yeah, so, there were issues there. So everybody asked me what line I'd put him on. I told him in the line waiting for the elevator for the press box. I mean, because you just shake up what's working, and you can't afford to do that going into the playoffs.
Well, I will say, though, that there's no way the Penguins are a better team without Malkin.
He got better as the playoffs went along, I thought, anyways, because I don't know. He had just come back, and he wasn't contributing much at the beginning, but I thought he was getting better as it went along.
Look at, I don't think he has the wheels, like Connor Sherry. You listen to Sullivan, this is all about speed. His attacks of speed. In fact, you got to admire Sullivan because he takes, Connor Sherry doesn't play, and then they put in Bennett, Bo. I mean, God bless Bo. I mean, he's been nothing but a human injury. But they put him in, and it was like he's out there with snow skis, and they asked him after the fact. They said, well, where was Sherry? But the rumor was he had 102 temperature. Sullivan says, no, he didn't have 102 temperature. He says, this is a long playoff. And Connor's, his asset to this team is his speed. And if he's tired, we're seeing that he's physically tired in practice, we set him out to give him a rest so we can come back fresh.
Right.
I mean, that's a coaching juggernaut move.
Right.
This guy's playing on a line with Crosby, and you're yanking him because you sense the fact that he's not going to make it through the whole series. I mean, this Sullivan guy's not dumb.
Right.
I mean, he obviously coached for Wilkes-Barre, and a lot of these guys know him.
Right, and then another master move. I mean, it could have blown up in his face because I thought it was unnecessary, and it was a surprise when they brought Fleury back. They benched Murray. Then the next game, Fleury plays, and it actually ends up Fleury loses. Didn't play terribly,
right,
but maybe didn't win him the game either. And at that level, sometimes you've got to win the game.
Yeah.
And so now, if anything goes sideways, Sullivan can say, "Look, we gave Fleury a chance. It didn't work. We're riding Matt Murray the rest of the way," which is what they did. And that could have gone very wrong, but it worked out very well for him because now they could take out any controversy. If Murray gave up 5 goals in a game, Fleury came in and finished it, you knew it was going to go back to Murray at that point because that loss, for better or for worse, was valuable in a cohesive kind of chemistry sense.
Right. Okay, let's we're gonna keep going here. This first segment, we're gonna switch gears a little bit. We're gonna go from the ice to the hardwood. And Don, look at you. You're just smiling like a butcher's
No, you know
dog.
what? The sad thing is,
Oh,
it's
the Cavaliers! Let's talk about your Cavs.
I remember the days of Craig Elo and the Michael Jordan jumper over him, but in terms of Cleveland sports history, a Cavs title is maybe third on the priority list behind maybe even just a winning season for the Browns, a Browns Super Bowl title and an Indians World Series title. But I mean, it was really fantastic to see. It was strange. Game 7 really felt like it had an anticlimactic end. What was it? It was like 3.5, 4 minutes without a Golden State basket. There was no like definitive. The definitive LeBron moment is him laying on the court with his hurt wrist.
Yeah.
And
Wasn't it the block shot? Wasn't that didn't he block a shot late?
I couldn't.
Yeah.
That was like superhuman. I couldn't believe that a human being could jump that whatever it was 30 feet away and block that ball.
Yeah.
So far up on the backboard. Man.
So
Did they say LeBron's mother wasn't even born yet when the Cavs won their last basketball or something, or the Cleveland won something?
yeah,
It's
that
like
would
over
have
50 years or something.
right. It would have been the 54 Indians, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
54 innings.
Well, I suspect people will say that there was the Browns. The Browns won NFL championships in the 60s, but that was
Pre-Super Bowl times.
pre-Super Bowl. I mean,
Yeah.
that might as well be in the Mesozoic era. No one knows pre-Super Bowl football.
No. And I guess, the thing is everybody's, well, like, they're sort of down on LeBron. I mean, I'm not following basketball as much as some people do, but, some people say that by him going to Miami gives Cleveland a chance to bring some of these other players in so he comes back. And so maybe his hiatus to Miami and a couple championships actually helps Cleveland.
Well, you look with Kyrie Irving. Do they have Kyrie? They don't get a number one draft pick.
That's what so maybe indirectly, he helps the boys out. But I got the classic line, and I don't know if you've heard this or not, but they were asking Michael Jordan about something about LeBron or the championship or something that LeBron said, or no, it was that it came out stated, that's what it was, that LeBron James scored more points in Game 7 of an NBA championship game than anybody in history. And they asked Michael Jordan about that. And Michael Jordan, I'm not quoting, but it's paraphrased, but it gets to the point calmly, said, I never played in a Game 7. Because he never did. You can take that a lot of different ways. One, he never played in Game 7, because if he did, he probably would have scored more. Or, I won the championship a lot sooner than a Game 7.
We didn't have to play all 7 when I was there.
So knowing Michael Jordan, or he probably was meaning the latter than the formal. But Duane, what do you think? I mean,
I never watched any of it in Game 6, and I found myself sort of rooting for the Browns, rooting for the Cavs, because I wanted to see them get destroyed again in the Game 7. I thought that's what was going to happen.
Well, honestly, I thought there is no more Cleveland way for this to go than them to win Game 5 at Golden State, come home to Cleveland, and then have to lose it there and have to watch Golden State celebrate in Cleveland. I thought that was the way the script was going to be written. I mean, that's the way it's gone back through to the 50s. So
Well, I was halfway rooting for them to win in Cleveland, to go back and get crushed in California. And they did a great job in Game 6. I watched the whole game, and I was very, very impressed. So I only got the tail end of Game 7, and I was out doing something, came back, and my wife, who never, ever had turned on a basketball game, it's like, you got to see this. This is like, Cleveland's ahead. I said, you kidding me? Cleveland's ahead. So I watched the last part of the game. I was channeling my inner Gary Clark. I was happy to see Cleveland kind of like get off the Boston Red Sox deal. It's like, at least they won something.
Yeah,
so
good for.
maybe we'll hear about it anymore. I don't know.
I don't know whose parade was bigger. I know Pittsburgh estimated 400,000. I don't know what Cleveland had. I don't know what the deal was. Cleveland did get the cover of Sports Illustrated, I guess. So it was good for them.
so Sid was on the cover too.
Was he?
Yeah, I would imagine, at least in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Well, you hope anyway.
In the regional edition. He was the
regional-
cover of the regional edition.
All right. With that, I think we're going to take our first break because we're going to come back and talk about baseball, and then we're going to talk about some local stuff. So sit tight, and we'll be back in a flash. Welcome back to Good Sports TNG, and that's TV talk for the next generation. I'm Dan Craven with the Golden Spike, I had it during the first segment as well, so this show is definitely official. Again, Duane Kohler to my left, Dominic DiLorenzo to my right, Josh Fetz is on special location. Now the second half,
Is he on
we're,
assignment? Is he on?
it's too special to say.
Oh, okay.
I thought I had heard he was trying to prove that Leicester City was actually in Pennsylvania.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought it was a snipe hunt,
A snipe hunt.
but I don't know for sure.
They're in season, right?
Are they, Duane?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
If anybody knows, Duane does. Mr. Crawford
I'm-
County Outdoors.
I'm sure it is.
And that's a good lead. You know, this is why I picked this. You know, it's all about who you pick and who you surround yourself with. Dominic just leaded us right in to a subject that I believe is right in the neighborhood of the Crawford County Outdoors, and our host of that show, Duane Kohler's with us, because I don't know if you people who drive around the area think that we're going to get a flood, because I like every third car I see has a kayak on the top of it. And kayaking has become a huge pastime in Crawford County alone. I myself and my wife Diane have frequently talked about buying a kayak. Now, before you jump up and run out to some of the local establishments and buy a kayak, there are several things that you need to know that are very important, and that's why we have Duane here today, because there are some things that might be hidden things you may never think you need to do, or hidden things you don't think you're responsible for, and then some waterway patrolman guy hands you a slip for $66 or $99 or $100 and something because you didn't do what you're supposed to do. So now you have no excuse, because Duane's going to fill us in. Duane, seriously, this kayaking thing is exploding.
Well, we do live in the Lakeland County here, home of the largest lake in Pennsylvania.
We know that.
Largest natural lake in Pennsylvania.
Which is the Cuniat Lake?
Conneaut, yeah.
Conneaut Lake?
Now, in the past, I'd heard Canandaigua described as the second largest, but it's actually further down the list. I've learned recently, but it's
Well,
it's one of the
Pontotoc, that's
larger.
kind of half and half.
Pontotoc is the largest lake in Pennsylvania. Even though part of it's in Ohio, it's the largest lake in
How
Pennsylvania.
about Lake Wallenpaupack up in the
I-
Poconos?
That's one. That's in the mix there someplace. But,
Anyway.
the largest natural lake in Pennsylvania is Conneaut. And it's going to be the host of the Paddle Fest this year, which is a fundraiser for the Conneaut Lake Historical Society, August 14th. Starts at 9 in the morning, I believe. And so instead of a running 5K, it's a paddling 5K.
Nice.
So it starts at the Fireman's Beach and goes up through the Heidi Cooper Bay and up around Goat Island, that little pile of rocks out there. in the
Yeah.
middle of
The flag.
go around the flag and come back and finishes at Fireman's Beach. So we had a little interview with Sandy Porter, who's on the board of the Historical Society. We talked about that a few weeks ago on a Kayaking 101 special edition. And so I'm looking forward. I'm going to try it out. I'm looking forward to that a lot. So yes, so there are some things you need to think about before you get out there. One is, so I'm channeling my inner Dr. John Ziegler here. So when you ask him what kind of shoes do I need, well, you start with, what are you going to use them for? If you're going to use them on muddy turf or whatever, you need to think about what sole you need. If you're going to be on a court, if you're going to be on a So, how are you going to use that kayak? If you're going to use it on a lake, or if you're going to use it in white water, or if you're going to use it in swift-moving water, like going down to French Creek or going down some other creek. So there would be a difference that way. For those, the general sort of two things to think about is, do you want to go fast? Then you need a long, skinny kayak. If you want to be real stable and not be tippy, whatever, then you need a wider one. And flip it over, and if it has like a keel, like some sort of channels or a little rib that runs down the center, it's going to go straight without you having to try too hard. So if you want to be more maneuverable, you don't want that. If you want to go fast, you don't want that. But if you want to be, if you're starting out, you're probably going to be a lot more comfortable if it's not tippy. But if you're going fast, you don't want to worry about the tippiness so much. But things to think about, Dan. You brought up a good point. You have to have a life jacket. If you're 12 or under, you have to have it on. Period. And if you're anybody else, you have to have it, and it has to actually be a life jacket, not the kind like that you sit on, or that you throw to somebody
like
else.
Like a life preserver.
Not a life preserver. It has to be an actual life jacket, and inside it's got to be marked by the Coast Guard that it's approved. And there's a code number or whatever that the Coast Guard puts in there.
And I think that's an important point because, my uncle used to have a boat. Now, it's a life jacket, but it's got to be Coast Guard approved.
I remember when I was a kid, we'd go in the rowboat over at the family cottage in Canandaigua, and we got life preservers, and yet they were like cushions to sit on, so you wouldn't get splinters from the old wooden seat, but they weren't wearable, they were like something, if somebody fell on you, you'd toss it to them, and they could hang on to it until you could get over and fish them out. But it has to be a life jacket, it has to be a PFD, a personal flotation device,
and approved.
And approved by the Coast Guard.
And they got to fit correctly.
Well, and
that goes without saying.
There's a universal size, there's an adult male large size, and a small size, whatever. So it's not too hard to figure out.
I know some kids.
They make them for kids. They make them for infants. So get the right size.
I don't think, Duane, I don't think you can emphasize, or I don't think you can overemphasize the value and the importance of the life jacket, even for folks who don't have to wear them. I think, I would encourage having, like you've been around water, you wear them.
So starting in 2012, there's a new law out there.
Starting in 2012?
Starting in 2012, the Fish Commission put past a new law that is now a statewide regulation that if it's between November 1st and April 30th, you have to wear it. Everybody, 12 years old, and everybody has to wear it.
That's 4 years in the making.
So this has now been in effect now. So
4 years.
This didn't go back forever. This just came into effect, three and a half years ago. So that's a good. If you fall in the water in November, it's going to be cold, and you may be, hypothermia or whatever. You may not be paddling to shore, if your boat's gotten swamped, you can't get it or whatever. So that's a good point. Your life jacket's floating beside you. It's not helping you very much. So in the cold water, you have to have that life jacket on, even if you're not 12.
But I remember. I know some people, they wear it like their dads. And you remember Bazooka Joe? He wore his shirt up over top of it. And so kids out there rowing in the life jacket. So it's got to fit. It's got to fit. So just take the extra time. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
They make one that they used to call the Mae West. It goes behind your head, and it's got two big things that come down.
Oh,
the front.
right.
That'll fit anybody. There's life jackets that would fit anybody. So have that.
So that's right.
And have a signaling device, which in my case, it's a little whistle that I attach to my life jacket. So if a boat doesn't see you, I always tell people, wear bright. Let's probably my Crawford County Outdoors hat's not the right hat to wear. I always try and wear something brightly colored, because you want to be seen. If you did fall out too, and the firemen are looking for you, you want them to be able to find you, and if you're all camoed up, they're not going to find you.
But most commonly, the signaling device is a whistle.
I have a whistle, and that's a common thing. I thought of, and I looked into this one too when we were having kayak 101 class. But you are allowed to paddle after dark as long as you have a light with you. So and it's a white light. So if you see motorboats going, there's a red. There's
red's
red
on
and green.
Red's on the left and green's on the right.
Yeah, so you know which way's, and then white on the back.
Right. Correct.
I thought every moving boat had to have that, but technically a kayak you have to have a white light that you can signal to the other boat. So you can go after dark. I went out the other night to Conneaut, the night of the strawberry moon or whatever, the solstice moon.
Oh, right.
And we took pictures with phones. It was the most awesome, evening ever. But everybody had their flashlight along, So we were. But all the boats, Conneaut gets pretty crazy with all the motorboats out there in the summertime.
Lots of traffic.
Settled way down, and we had a great time. I was trying to do the course to see what it was, what it was like, and that was a blast. So have a signaling device, have a light, have your life jacket. Oh, you need a paddle too, by the way. So.
Right.
And depending on, if you're going to be in a race, you're going to pick one kind of paddle. They make ones with extra stiff shafts that are made out of carbon fiber, whatever. They cost $100. Or you get the $30 one that's made out of fiberglass. Or you can be like me and you can make your own handicraft one, as a craft project with your leftover wood that from leftover other projects.
2 spatulas on a broomstick.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. It works. It's a little heavier maybe than that Kevlar, carbon fiber one, but. So I'm looking forward to the Paddle Fest. I think that's going to be a blast.
Let me ask you a question now. I have my kayak. I've got my life jacket. I got my signaling device. I got the right paddles. I got the right kayak. I know a lot of people that live on the lake. I'm not going on any Fish Commission approved anything. Can I just plop that kayak in? Do I have to register the kayak? Do I have to have any type of permit if I'm going to go off
So if you're going to be at a lake that's self-contained within a state park, you get a state park launching permit. If you're going to launch at the Fish Commission launching site, then you need a Fish Commission launch permit. If you're launching from your own property, from your friend's property, or Bicentennial Park in Meadville, that's not a Fish Commission launch site. You can launch on French Creek from there without the permit. So permit, yes. If you're in Lake, what's the one that's in Lake Wilhelm? It's completely in the state park.
Or Moraine in Butler, would that be?
There we go. You need to have a DCNR, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
You need to have their permit. And they're all $20. I mean, it's not, we're not talking, it's
Right.
going to cost you $1,000 or whatever. And the Fish Commission launch permit, if you're going to use their launch and their takeout points, on the creeks or on the lakes. So it's a launch permit to use their facility. Again, if you're launching, at the public beach, or you're launching at your family's campsite or whatever, you're good to go.
So I don't have to, like my car, I don't have to register it, generally speaking. I don't have to have a sticker or a number. I don't have to have any of that.
What I read was if you have one or the other, that they'll cover each other. If you
Okay.
have either that DCNR one or if you have the Fish Commission one, they cover each other. That's the way I understood that.
Now, I watched Kayaking 101, and I think this
Did
is
you take notes?
It changed his life, Tom. Look at him. I mean,
This
he's
is
like
why
he's
I
all
came
into
out.
this now.
There are two types of kayaks. There are the kayaks you sit in, and the kayaks you sit up.
Correct.
And
Sit on top.
Duane will take it from here.
Okay, so the sit on top kind, if you have lots of little cousins like I have, and they want to go out and jump off and go swimming and get back in, you probably want the sit on top
Right.
kind, because it's got holes and the water drains down through. So when you're paddling along, you're probably going to get wet with that one more. But if you're getting off and getting back on, you want one like that. And they make different sizes and shapes, and the more stable ones and the faster ones and so on. If you're more like me, and it's like maybe you do go on in the springtime, or maybe you do on French Creek and it rains on you, or whatever, maybe you want the sit-in kind. That's kind of a personal choice. You were saying before about the rowing. It's not all about your arms. You take the paddle and put it on your head, and then you make a 90 degree there and a 90 degree there. So that's about where you want to hold the paddle. They always say, you put your feet shoulder width apart. When you put the paddle on your head, and you put your hands so you have a 90 degrees and a 90 degrees, and you make that like a box. And so you keep that box shape. So it's not all your arms. You're using your body. So you shouldn't be done having a sore shoulder, a sore elbow, a sore wrist, and really, I think you get more power. It's like if you just swung at the baseball just with your hands and your arms, you're not going to hit out of the park, right? But if you get your whole core involved and you get your hips and your knees and everything's involved in that. Same with your golf swing. It's going to have more power, and you're going to have more fun. I think at the end of the day, than because I know I get carried away at the golf course once in a while. I take a swing, and I realized after I did it was all arms, and it really sucked. It went off and found a forest home there for that new ball.
And actually, isn't it some of the Inuit? I think is those folks who really champion the kayak would travel thousands of miles in these. I mean, and not because they had superhuman strength, but because the craft is easily pilotable, and if you know how to do it, like you say, it's not your arms that you're churning.
Your arms get tired pretty fast if you're just using your arms.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And you had mentioned another good point that again that sometimes, and I want you to address it, the length of the paddle sometimes obviously is if the shorter the paddle is going to do something different than a longer paddle. And then you had mentioned something that sometimes you sort of cheat the paddle. Talk about some of that paddle.
So I have a boat that doesn't have that long keel in the middle to keep me going straight. So as I'm paddling along, I'm right-handed, so my right arm is stronger than my left arm, and I'm stronger doing things with my right side. So I have a tendency to turn to the left because my right arm's pushing further, So I'll shift the paddle over and stick more paddle out the left side than the right side because that gives a little bit more force to the left side to even me out. And I have to go a little ways till I figure where to hold it again. I'm still holding my 90-degree elbows, but I have to figure out where to hold the paddle so to accommodate for my one side being a little bit stronger than the other side.
In your involvement in all this, and I don't know, is there? I mean, you see people a lot at all the different locations that you can buy one, but is there something, you talked about sitting in, sitting out, keels, no keels, wider for slower, narrower for faster, smoother, so on. But is there something else you should look for, like I know, like the thickness of the kayak? Is fiberglass better than plastic? Is there one company that's better? What from a beginning standpoint, what was some things that line to look for?
Most of the molded kayaks nowadays are made out of, I think it's polyethylene. I think.
Okay.
But it has flotation to it on its own, and you look in the front and then the back and the very pointy parts. They've got them packed full of flotation, so it's not going to sink even if you get it filled with water. The sit on top one, it can't. I mean, it's air strapped inside of the actual structure itself. In fact, it has a cork, and you can, if water does get leaked in around where the seat connects and all that kind of stuff, you take the cork out and hold it upside down, and the water pours out there, which is kind of fun. But the other one, you might want to take something along to bail yourself out with, but they're not going to sink. The newer ones, that's really not an issue. Anyways, it's not so much to me. You may want to practice getting in and out because you can flip yourself over, not being careful getting in and out. Keep your center of gravity low. I never did this, but so as I'm researching, getting ready to give Kayak 101 class, I was looking at an online video, and you lay your paddle like an outrigger, sticking all out one side,
Right.
hang on to it with your hand behind you, and kind of scoot your butt on the paddle into the boat, and let the other side kind of go against the shore, the shoreline, but step out in the water a little bit. And boy, that really worked. I'm like, man, I'm glad I looked that up. That was pretty slick. But if you do fall out, there are ways to get back in. It's easiest to get in over the end because the boat wants to kind of tip. If you fell out the side, it wants to tip again.
Right.
So trying to get in over the end if you can. But what'd you ask me the first? I got off track.
I was asking you. No, I was asking you if there's like a certain, like if someone was going to look for one, is there a certain brand? Is there like what do you feel that? I mean, or do you trust the local people?
Okay, now, in my case, the family has a place at Canadota Lake, which is much smaller than Conneaut, and never big motorboats blazing around. It's always party boats, party barge kind of boats that don't go very fast. So, in fact, I get a big kick out of racing them to see if I can go faster than when they're going full speed. If I can keep up or pass them or whatever. It's a keep up maybe, pass them. I haven't been able to do that yet, but so mine's going to be geared more towards a lake. So maybe one that's, if you're going to go a 1,000-mile trip in Canada or whatever, you may want to get one of those $1,500 high-tech fabric ones that's real long and real narrow, real skinny. The recreational kayak are the ones that I would say almost everybody around here is probably going to need to start with, because if you're going to be on Woodcock or Conneaut or Canadota, a little bit different than being on French Creek, because French Creek, you got maybe April and May and the first half of June, and then the water level gets so low that you end up having to walk half the way.
Right.
If you get down on the Franklin end, there's a lot of water moving down that way, so it's pretty good there. But so the one that's made for moving water is kind of different than the one that's so. It depends on your preference. Like when I was a little kid, the family had a rowboat, with the 2 oars, and you'd row all day and you'd get nowhere, So when I was about, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 or something like that, Mom and Dad traded in all the family's green stamps from gasoline from the grocery store and got a canoe. And it's like, man, we could go fast in that canoe. And then a kayak came along. That's probably 20-some years ago. I bought the first kayak, and I was like, wow, you can go really fast. And it's not hard. You can keep it going straight. So I like going faster. Just paddling around and stuff. That's kind of fun too. But I like going faster. So I was kind of picking ones. The longer one goes a little bit faster. A wider one is very not tippy, very stable, maneuverable, but not as fast. So it depends on what you want.
Now, do you have a kayak at home that's a little narrow, and then you wear one of those little ballet skirts and kind of rubber?
I never got one of those. You can get the skirt. You can get the skirt to keep the water from splashing in on you. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to be going on one of these whitewater things and you're going to be rolling over or rolling back up or whatever, you definitely need to get that. But that's a whole other thing. If you what's it called? McConnell's Mills. There's a whitewater not too far away down. In the Butler, Newcastle area. Right. You can get some nice whitewater there, and Youghiogheny down Ohio Pile down that way. But again, that's another whole thing. I know there's been from time to time I've seen classes about those, about those whitewater kayak things, and in the Olympics coming up, it's kind of fun to watch that. Those guys use shorter paddles because you're rapid stroke rate, and you don't have time to really reach out and take a nice long powerful stroke. They're maneuvering quickly.
Well, basically, the water's moving them. They're just more or less kind of steering it in a way, but they do have to come back against the current. Okay, good. Anything else, Dom?
No,
kayak, boatmanship.
Yeah. 2 things real quick. Just, my wife has a kayak, and we've used it out of Conneaut Lake a little bit. And in fact, one of my favorite things about the kayak is it enables you to go on Conneaut Lake, which is, like you said, a lot of heavy boat traffic, very populous. But with the kayak, there are spots, and in fact, down by the Fish Commission launch, you go down in there, and the day we were there were probably a dozen snapping turtles sunning themselves on a log, and you could go back in, and it's quiet. It takes you to a whole other part of the lake that you don't even know exists if you're a power boater. If you're a power boater,
you can't get in there.
You can't get in there, and you're not interested in going in there. You're driving around, jumping in, swimming, doing. So that's a fantastic aspect of the kayak, the smooth, quiet ride, and the new places it can take you. And then secondly, it's just to respect the water. When I was asking you about life jackets, we also took that kayak on French Creek, and it was running fast, not real fast, but you take for granted, you assume because it's French Creek that it's novice water, you can handle it, whatever. And just I think that people should respect water.
There's at least once in French Creek where it moves along pretty good, and there's some little rapids, and
we were actually trying to bring the boat back in at Colonel Crawford. And so she's got a longer one, and she came in, and the water starts, and the back end starts to swing, and it never got really tense, but it got serious. Like the joking stopped. We're like, we got to get the boat in. Let's get this boat in, and then we'll talk about how good your ride was, So, but yeah, just people should respect water. I mean, at least once every 2 months or so, we hear about fishermen at Pymatooning, and drinking, fall out of the boat. We got to call out the National Guard.
And I think Florida, there's some kids in Florida got on a sailboat. And I agree with you. The water's something.
Can I make one more point?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Summit Township in the sort of northern end of. I guess that's the northern eastern end of Conneaut. They are in the process of getting a kayak launching spot, and with some special equipment that would help folks who are handicapped, who are confined to a wheelchair. I saw some draft pictures of it, but it would be a way you can transfer from your wheelchair to a bench area, and you need someone to help you get your kayak lined up there.
Right.
But you get yourself into the boat yourself. There's handrails,
right.
And then you can kind of get yourself down into the lake over kind of rollers on. There's rollers up and rollers down, and kind of roll yourself down, and you can transfer then back up the rollers and use the handrails to pull yourself back up, and then transfer back into your into your wheelchair. Which that's awesome, and so it's in the works. It's probably a few years away because there's studies and stuff going on, but I think that's an awesome. So they're going to have a water trail at Conneaut.
That'd be fantastic.
In the northern end, there around the Lauderdale Estates, there's an inlet there, and it's to the point where it's shallow enough that no big boats are able to go in there, and so nobody wants to buy this one lot that's right in the last little corner. So that's going to become a township park.
Oh, fantastic! We saw them cleaning that.
Yeah, and be
clean
set
out
up
the brush
for folks who are
That's
handicapped.
cool.
Handicap accessible kayak launch at Conneaut. I think that's the coolest thing.
Yeah,
I agree.
And the other thing, just want to touch you made me think of something here. Then we'll get to our break. But BJ Scarpino, that's a name that's a local fame. I mean, Anthony played at the hockey, and I think Mr. Scarpino taught at the Lionsville. But long story short, she was a professor at Edinburgh, and she taught special education. And she talked to me one time on how she used to bring her kids. They used to water ski at Conneaut Lake, and she said, but she would have these kids come down. It was a similar type thing, and they had special skis, and they got these people, and they actually got some kids up and people up, and then, of course they had all these different trail boats. But so all this stuff is neat stuff, and of course
we may get some footage of that sometime. That
still goes on, right?
That happens in July,
and she was a part. She started that.
Right.
She's since retired, but I guess the point is that now we got the water skiing has been a big fame, and now we got this kayaking thing, and I think it's great. It's good recreation. I'm all about it. And with that, I want to close up just because I want to come back and finish up. I don't know how much time we have left. So let's go to our last break, and then we'll come back. But Duane, thank you very much. It was very informative. If you have any questions, email Duane at Crawford County Outdoors, because he'll be more than happy to answer any kayaking questions. If you have any basketball questions or soccer questions, you want to email or get a hold of Dominic here at Good Sports and Next Generation.
Outdoors.
No, that's our
Duane will forward.
It's the Good Sports and Next Generation. I don't take emails. Okay, with that, we'll go back to our first break.
Wait, back to our first break?
Oh, go to the end of our first break, back to our second break. Welcome back to the third and final edition of this show, so don't panic over there. For Good Sports and Next Generation, I'm Dan Craven. Now, I know it's sad, but just hang in there. This is the last segment of this show, but there'll be other shows in the future. Today, we're going to talk about some local flair. And Dominic, since you're on my right, and Duane just got done talking a little bit, I'm going to let him.
He needs a breather.
My mouth's tired.
I'm doing Peter White, I'm doing you a favor. I'm letting him rest his vocal cords. Peter White says I talk too much. Can you imagine? Me. I went in there once and I was, and he looked at me and says, you talk too much, Dr. White said.
You didn't try tea and honey?
I didn't try tea and honey. He says, your vocal cords are getting way out of stretch. So I'm giving Duane a rest here.
How much did Diane pay him to say that?
I don't know.
My grandmother told me that I had 2 ears and 1 mouth, and I should talk half as much as I do and listen twice as much as I do. So.
Oh, there you go. Write that down.
Oh, there you go. If we're going to throw old saws, a closed mouth gathers no feet.
Well, how about shortest pencil? Shortest pencil's better than longest memory. Write it down. Okay, Duane. Okay. Dominic, give us some local flavor.
Well, the District 1 tournament, baseball, softball, youth baseball, softball. It's a great thing. That and actually American Legion as well. We went down to Eldred Glen, watched a little bit of Meadville and FCV play. But District 1 is a fantastic. It's a great tournament, and it gives you. People talk about maybe disinterested youth or kids playing video games, and I think all you need to do is go to a couple of these games to know that there are still a large percentage of our population that's active and involved and participating. And if you really want to get back, I know that not necessarily the world revolves around Meadville, but the 9-10-year-old tournament is up at the fairground field, so all the games are up there. So if you just want to catch youth baseball, you can just swing by the fairground field anytime.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
There's no there's no admission.
Right,
There's a donation or anything. No.
No, I mean there's probably like the concession stand will be open, and so you probably
support those guys.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And this is just an annual. Some of these teams ultimately could end up on ESPN now. Obviously
I get what you're saying, right?
There's a lot of stuff that goes on between the local qualifiers and the teams you see on TV. But, I mean...
It's not impossible.
No, it's not impossible, and, someone's got to get there.
I think on one year, when we had a show at another location. This is back in the good old days when Don was hosting. I think we had one of our senior league teams. I think they went as far as states or something. We had some of those kids on the show.
Well, right, yeah. There have been several local teams that have reached the national level.
So it's not that uncommon.
Right, played up in Connecticut, played down in Kentucky.
Yeah.
So yeah, get out. I mean, it's, free baseball on a summer night or softball.
Yeah, you never know who you're going to see. Someone might make it to the big league someday. I mean, you never know.
Jay Tessmer?
Yeah, I mean, there's the one.
Was it Todd Erdos?
Yeah,
going even back farther, if you're an old timer like me, you could have played in the shadow of the Jones home in Harmonsburg.
Yeah, Daryl and
Lynn.
They're both were major leaguers.
Yeah. So yeah, the District 1 tournament. I think some of the games actually started tonight, which is what is today? June, July, August.
June. Today's June 28th.
Yeah. So yeah, there you go.
Almost
June 20th.
July.
What's that?
It's almost July.
Almost July.
Yeah.
So get out and catch a game.
Oh, good stuff. I'm gonna sort of caboose on the baseball flavor. I ran into Ken Lindbergh Sr. today, and his son. And I think this is worth mentioning. His son, Ken Jr. I think went to school for like sports administration and that kind of stuff. He is actually doing some type of management thing, and I'm not sure of his title, so I'm not going to mention something and be wrong. But he is in Washington State for a team called the Everett Aqua Sox. And the Everett Aqua Sox is just north of Seattle, I think. And apparently it's a single A team for the Seattle Mariners, and it's what they call that short season. Now,
right.
If you know anything about baseball, they have a long season, short. But he's part of the short season crew. But he has something to do with management with that. So, I mean, he's, and nobody, unless you know somebody, nobody starts... jumping right into the big leagues. You got to start in this, and who knows? Someday, you may be hearing Ken Lindbergh's name, and who knows what. But I thought that was an interesting flavor and a nice touch, and I thought it was worth a shout out that the local guy is doing good. He hasn't put in. Who knows? He might end up in somewhere along the line. So good for the Lindbergh family.
So it's the Aqua Sox. Maybe they need kayaks there. I mean, if they're getting their feet wet all the time, maybe they need.
That's right.
Beat a boat.
Well, they do that at the San Francisco Giants home field. The kayakers are out behind
Waiting for a ball lane in the
McCovey Cove.
Yeah, McCovey Cove. That's right. All right, dude. What's your shout out?
Crawford County Outdoors. We got some fun things coming up. We're having a camping episode coming up here soon. We're going to take a hike over in Titusville on the Queen Trail. There's the Oil Creek Trail, and that might be down the road. We're going to hike on that one someday. But the Queen Trail, which you're looking puzzled on.
Yeah, I don't know the Queen Trail. I thought you were going to say the
Oil Creek Trail goes towards Oil City. The Queen Trail goes from the starting point in Pit Hole and goes to Titusville. So
wow.
It's only just a short distance, like 3 miles or 2 miles or something like that. And there's a development of water trail in that same area along the Oil Creek, so that may be something else for a future episode. And of course, the highlight of the year for Crawford County Outdoors is the Wild Games.
Oh, yes.
And it wouldn't be the Wild Games without Dan Craven.
Well, I
leading
know.
the pack.
I gotta
And
get
know
there.
You've been practicing your shooting, haven't you?
Yeah, sure. I sure have.
Okay. All right.
I'm serious. I
So-
have, and I'll tell you what. This year,
There's like anniversary and Christmas and birthday and the Wild Games. I mean, it's like,
Oh,
the opening day of small game season.
taxes
That's
and wild games.
and
Yeah,
the Wild Games. I mean, that's like,
I have been practicing my shooting.
there you go. There you go.
There's a lot of dead milk containers behind my yard.
So one more thing, every fall we have an episode where we invite the viewers to send in their video. Actually, some of our employees here from Armstrong videotape on their own hunting trips, and that was a blast. I loved talking with them last year, and they had some great footage of that. So if you're taking your kid fishing, take a camera along, get some video, get some stills of that. If you're going kayaking, take a camera along. It's always funny whenever you get somebody falling out of the boat or whatever. We love to have like funny cat video or something.
Right.
We'll take that one too. We have some funny dog video in the past, so we need video for the viewer video show. So we're looking for that. So get your camera out there this summer and get some funny stuff.
Good thing. Good deal. All right. Well, with that, I think we're going to wrap it up, and I'd like to thank Dom and Du for being here. And basically today we're D-cubed.
D-cubed?
D-cubed.
Dan?
Dom, Dan,
Wow.
Dom, Dan, and D. Duane. D-cubed.
Wow.
Can I take the stage for just one moment?
Oh, please. There's one leaving in 15 minutes.
Be under it. But I think I would be remiss if I didn't take at least 30 seconds to acknowledge Pat Summit.
Oh,
She
right.
passed today.
Right.
I don't know that
Right.
women's athletics. It would be very easy for me to be snarky because someone was going on and on about what an impact Pat Summit had on girls' athletics. He just kept saying girls, not women's. It was women's
It was
sports
women's, right, yeah.
that she has transformed. And so the
She
battle
did very
goes
well.
on, Pat, but we recognize and salute
Right.
you for your effort to even have someone be willing to talk about quote unquote girls' athletics.
Right. And I think she ended up from complications due to dementia, I believe. And I think even from what I understood, like even later in her coaching, the assistants had her coaching amazingly was good, but she was forgetting bus schedules and I think her career at Tennessee was cut short because of what happened.
Certainly, right.
And I would agree with you, Dom. I'm glad you mentioned it, and I apologize for forgetting it. But
No.
yeah, no, she truly had a huge impact on women's athletics, especially the collegiate basketball. So our hearts and sympathies go out to the Summit family for sure. Very good. So with that said, we got a couple of good special shows coming up this fall, right before football season, that you guys can't miss. So we got to make a show where we're all here. We got a local special guest that's really going to really give us an insight on professional football, and I'm going to leave that a secret. We're probably going to try to twist another show in here before the football season starts. But if we don't, definitely stay tuned for that one. So for Duane and for Dom and for Josh, who's on Parts Unknown at
Leicester City.
Yeah.
Looking for Leicester City.
We're in Leicester City doing a special assignment, and for Armstrong Cable for giving us the opportunity. This is Dan Craven saying good night, everybody.